I'm kind of sitting here like I don't even know what to say about the Jack Black and Lizzo episode. Like, people were so mad at me because I didn't like it.
I mean, I think a lot of people didn't like it.
But have you read the comments on my reaction video? Like, people were mad at me for not liking it. I'm like, guys, like, it's okay. It's fine. But it was just absurd. Like, it was just an absurd thing to have Jack Black and Lizzo in there. And it's like, I feel like that episode for me marked the, what is going on?
Yeah, I try not to read the comments because I don't want them to influence my perception of things. But I get it. I mean, look, Star Wars fans are like gatekeepers in a lot of ways. Like, if you don't know, like, I didn't know Glup Shido in the episode before that, and everyone's like, "Oh, how do you haven't even seen it? You don't even how do you even live with yourself? You don't even know who Glup Shido was." I'm like, dude, easy. All right, cool it. It's totally fine.
Oh, Zeb, that's right.
Yeah, we don't have to know every single character and everyone's backstory and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, some people really liked it, some people didn't. I'm in the middle. I didn't think it was the worst as a standalone episode. If it was a Clone Wars episode, it would have been awesome. It's just the way it relates to everything else. The way they used some of the characters was very flawed. And it was just very average. I don't think it was below average. I think it was like, there was a lot of really cool stuff in that episode. I think it was just a little overshadowed by the celebrity appeal in it. But
well, also, it's like when you're on episode 6 out of 8, your last 3 episodes, in my opinion, need to be plot heavy. Like, at this point, like, you don't really have any time to spare. You've already limited yourself by only giving yourself 8 episodes. And then by the time you get to episode 6, you're expecting this is going to be the setup into our finale. Like, that's where your hype should, like, really be kicking in. And it was just like, hi, Jinx.
Yeah. This is my problem with a lot of Star Wars content, is they tend to save all the juicy stuff for the very end of the season. And I hate that way of storytelling. It's like they're holding it back, like, hey, we have all this cool stuff. You guys can watch this in the meantime. In the middle episodes, whatever. You can watch this. We have some really cool stuff, though. And then the last couple episodes, they throw it all on you. And I don't love that. I think you can come up with other cool stuff, too, that's not as big of a reveal or as big of a character coming into the story or whatever it is, or a climax. You don't need to save all that to the end. You can have other stuff in the middle that's also cool that contributes to character development, and tension between people. And this episode kind of felt like it was just kind of like a filler in a lot of ways. And they're just like, hey, we're entertaining you. Look at all these characters interacting with one another. This is a thing that's happening. That's all it was just look at this thing that's happening. And also there's so many weird plot holes in it too that I don't get. I think the directing was cool. I think Bryce Dallas Howard did a cool job with like some of the directing choices. I think the writing was just kind of weak. And like,
but even she couldn't save this episode.
Yeah, very weird. Also, guys, welcome to the show where we talk shit about Mandalorian. Just kidding. Welcome to our Mandalorian season 3, episode 6 and 7 breakdown. Melissa and I had to hold off because Melissa was on vacation and she didn't want to do an episode with me last week. So but I think it's fine because we can kind of combine these. We can keep it brief.
Me?
I mean, I have positive things to say about this episode. I really do. But we're going to combine them today. I think the most recent episode overshadows this one by a long shot. A lot more stuff to unpack there. But welcome to the show. Look at my new cool hats sporting the Star Wars podcast merch, which you can find below in our merch store. Melissa worked very hard on these designs. I'm a big hat guy. This is a very comfortable hat for my big fat head. And there's also other cool stuff that you can find on our merch store. I decided I would wear it today to support the show. I enjoy it. It's a simple, nice design. If there's any designs you guys would like to see, let us know in the comments, and we'll think about adding them to the store. Also, please click like, subscribe, notification bell, all that stuff. We appreciate your support. Let's jump in to episode 6, your favorite episode of the season.
Do we have to break this down scene by scene?
No, we don't have to break it down scene by scene. Also, guys, we already covered Star Wars news, so we're not doing that today. We did an hour-long episode on that, so go check that out if you want to see all the Star Wars Celebration coverage. We did a full episode breaking down all that, the Ahsoka trailer, Skeleton Crew, Matt's tangents on Star Wars and Marvel and Sopranos.
Oh, they were great.
And the new animated shows, all that. We cover that in a separate episode because there was just a lot to unpack. So check that out on the channel as well. If you guys are new, please stick around for this episode. Give our show a shot. See if you like it. You might. and you might want to tell all your friends about it and share it. A lot more Star Wars content to come out. But yeah, we don't have to do a full scene-by-scene breakdown. We can kind of jump. I do want to keep some structure to it because there's some stuff I wanted to point out.
Okay.
But yeah, this one was called, what was it called again?
Guns for Hire.
Interesting title. The description is Mandalorian visits an opulent world. Interesting description. This one was written by Jon Favreau, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. So yeah, I guess we can just kind of briefly start at the beginning.
You know what it's going to start out as? It's going to go, War on the planet of Mandalore. It's going to go, the Duchess and her Imperial husband are finding themselves in turmoil over the scouring battle droids on the planet. It's like literally...
Dun, 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 dun,
Because meanwhile, Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian Din Djarin land on the planet with baby Grogu, hoping to find the scheme behind these massive droid invasions, or some BS like that.
That was pretty good. That was someone can overdub that into the beginning of this episode. That was a pretty good
I was
impression.
not cohesive at all with that, but I'm not good at ad-libbing on the spot. I expected the second time I did go back and watch this the second time. I know, thank you for your thoughts and prayers. But I went back and I watched this the second time and I was like, where is the announcer for the Clone Wars?
Yeah, dude, this was very Clone Wars-y type episode. You and I talked about this a little bit already, but boy, that was the only thing I was thinking at the end of this was just like, I just watched a live-action Clone Wars episode, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just like, what show am I watching here right now? Also, there's so many different sections to this episode. There's so many different parts to it. You have this weird Star Trek scene at the beginning. Then you have them going to this planet, and then just Lizzo and Jack Black, who know everything about Mando and Din for some reason, or Mando and Bo for some reason. I have no idea why. And they go solve a murder mystery thing with Christopher Lloyd, and then they go see the Mandalorians and fight each other, and then they reveal this tiny little plot forwarding stuff at the very end. And they stayed up all night, by the way, solving this murder thing, and they're in that droid bar and stuff, and then they just keep going, and they're not tired at all, and everything's fine and dandy. It was very strange.
Great summary.
A lot. Yeah, give them the key to the city and stuff. It's just very weird. But we start out the Star Trek scene. Cool practical effects here. That's one of the positive things I'll say. Really cool practical effects. Super Star Trek. I feel like we were waiting to get hailed by the Klingons. You know, Captain Kirk is getting hailed by the Klingons. There's birds of prey ready to shoot them down.
I mean, it was definitely, it was like Wrath of Khan / Search for Spock / Voyage Home.
Cool stuff here as we see these, what do they call? I always forget their names. Mon Calamarian? No, not Mon Calamarians. The ones with the weird tentacles. The
Quarren and the
They have
Mon
this cool language that they spoke. That was really cool. I thought that was like, it just sounded interesting. I don't know if that's a real language or not. It probably is, but I thought that was really interesting. The practical effects here, if there was, and then like the CGI stuff. She's in the big back to tank thing. Interesting, cool, creative. I enjoyed that. We see Axe Wolves is trying to go on his bounty for this Mon Calamarian prince whose voice does not fit him at all. It's like, oh mate, what are you doing? I'm just a geezer from East London, mate. I don't muck about. What are you doing?
No, he's like, no, we love each other.
Yeah, but we love each other. And like usually Mon Calamarians talk like this.
Yes. They don't.
And he's just like, oh no, I'm so scared. I love you. I'm going to touch your little tentacles with me face.
I feel that was the thing that threw me is the Quarren and the Mon Calamari have a very specific way of speaking, and then all of a sudden we're getting like this very posh British Mon Calamari with it was like Lady and the Tramp in a way.
Yeah, it was very, very strange. Their kissing was gross. We get the it's like even the caption on Wikipedia is like Romeo and Juliet in space is like what it says under them like. And I want every Mon Calamarian to sound like Admiral Akbar. They all have to sound like this. And their mouth has to be moving at a different pace as how they're actually talking. Yeah. The Mon Calamarian voices throughout the season have been weird. There was that guy who sounded like Jim Gaffigan in the one where they're on Coruscant with Pershing. And then you have this guy who's like, I'm a prince from London, mate. I don't muck about. I'm Mon Calamarian. So Axe Wolves is there to go capture him. They're bringing him back for some reason. It's just a way to introduce the Mandalorians, this other Mandalorian crew. They have their cool Imperial Star Destroyer thing, which I don't know. Like, what's your theory on this? Like, is he? This, I guess we can kind of tie this in with episode 7. They have the Imperial starship now. The newest episode's called The Spies. My first thought went to, okay, are they the ones who broke out Moff Gideon? Somehow, is he the traitor? Is Axe Wolves the traitor?
You know what? It could be a lot of different things. Axe Wolves could be the traitor, but also like the Mad Max Mandalorians could be the traitors. The armorer could be the traitor. I think, obviously, you brought this up a few episodes ago. Star Wars loves its double meanings.
Yeah, it does.
Where a title doesn't apply to a specific character anymore. It's like multiple different characters, and it's up to you to figure out who that's about.
Which, that's a good point to bring up at the beginning of this episode. My new theory is that The Mandalorian means it's about someone else every season. And I think that's kind of confirmed. Someone said, one of the writers brought it up and confirmed that. I guess I didn't know.
I think
someone
Rick
wrote in the comments.
Famuyiwa said that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say his last name.
I think Famuyiwa. I think, the first was about Din. Second season was about Grogu. This season's been about Bo-Katan. I think that's the double meaning of the show. I get what they're trying to do. I don't agree with the way they're telling the story. I think it's not very clear because they keep jumping back and forth. Very weird way to tell the story. But yeah, good way to start it off is like, they love those double meanings. I saw the ship and I was like, okay, maybe these are the guys who broke out Moff Gideon. And we can get into this when we talk about the next episode. There's some other evidence to back up that Axe Wolves is the traitor.
Axe Wolves could totally be the traitor because like he clearly doesn't agree with Bo and the way that she's approached things up until this point. And so, I mean, he could be pushed to the brink where he's like, the Mandalorian time is over. Like, we need to rise. Because there are Mandalorians who serve the Empire. As we see in, like, Star Wars Rebels, like, there is a faction of them that actually, like, Gar Saxon served the Empire. So it's like maybe Axe Wolves kind of has a similar motivation in that sense. But at the same time, it's like, it could have been the Mad Max Mandos. It could have been the Armorer, you know? And tying in with the next episode is, like, I think the Armorer has a lot of motivation. But it could be, like, Axe Wolves, like, in the following episode, like, he leaves to go get help.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and then we don't see him again.
We don't see him again. It's really suspicious.
Yeah, I agree. Also, this beginning scene, the way they're telling this story is so weird to me. You got to have an A plot, B plot, C plot, whatever, when you're writing a story. This is like a B plot or C plot. They touch on it at the beginning, and then we don't really see these guys till the very end. It's like if you're doing an A plot, B plot, C plot, you got to kind of cut in between. That's what makes the story feel cohesive. Is like all the scenes. It's like this scene's about the A plot, this scene's about the B plot, this scene's about the C plot, and then you see them connect. And I don't know, just the placement of this felt weird at the beginning. Just I don't know. It was interesting, but it contributed to my feeling of just lack of cohesiveness throughout this episode.
The overarching problem with the season as a whole. Yes,
was really come to light in this episode. Then we go to the next scene with Bo-Katan Din. They're flying down to Plazir 15. Kryze is trying to find Wolves because obviously she's like the new Mandalorian queen according to the Armorer for whatever reason. They're greeted by the announcer. They take control of the ship, bring them down. They go into the system and they're scanning their chain codes, and then like that cool little robot thing's like takes them over to the new place, and it's like, hello, Bo-Katan and Din. All right, I get that. So they know who they are. All right, they know who like their chain codes are. Then they get to the place, right? And they walk in on this really weird opulent world, and then it's just Jack Black and Lizzo just chilling out, having like a grand old royal feast. Jack Black reminds me here of the king from Cinderella for whatever reason. I don't remember.
Oh my God,
it's him. It's like a mix. It's a mix between the queen from Cinderella, the Disney Cinderella, and the king from Sleeping Beauty. When they're like, "Scrum, scrum, a toast to this night. That outlook is running, our future is bright." Yeah. Scrums, scrums. Sorry, guys. Go watch Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella.
Wait. If Jack Black is the king from Cinderella, then Lizzo is Barbie Island Princess.
She kind of is.
Dude, do you know what I'm talking about, that outfit? Like the blue and pink one from Barbie Island Princess?
I didn't really watch Barbie Island Princess all that much.
But it was on like all the time.
Yeah, you guys watched it a lot. I don't know. I'm familiar with it because you guys were obsessed with it. But
look at this.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, even like the little like hologram she had following her around. Oh my god, it is. It's exactly what it is. Whoa.
Look at this. Look at this. Lizzo's Star Wars.
Oh my god, it is, dude. It's just a more muted version.
Literally, it is the king from Cinderella and Barbie Island Princess.
Yeah, okay. That's what it is. Cool. There's some cool practical effects here. We see some of these different alien species and stuff. It's an interesting creative thing, I thought. It's like a cool kingdom where like everything's kind of perfect there or whatever.
It's a very good SNL skit.
It's a good SNL skit. The one thing that bothered me is they get there and then all, like the king and queen of this place just are like, oh, hey, we have two random people here who we've never met before. Come join our party and we know everything about you. What was it? Did I miss something there?
And they're being like super polite to them.
Yeah, what? Dude, that was so weird. Like, did I miss something? Or like, how did they know everything about him? And why were they being so nice? Like, dude, kings and queens of planets, I mean, they clearly didn't have all that much going on other than drinking secretions or something. Like, that's what they said at one point. Enjoy our secretions, which, gross word. But what was that? How did they know everything about them? And why did they accept them so readily? That was just so weird to me. You wouldn't do that to just any random travelers off the street.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
I said this in my reaction video immediately. I was like, this is bizarre. This is
something's off here because they're being super normal.
And here's why it's like they were progressing the plot too quickly with this stuff. It's like, we have a lot to cover. We don't need to explain why they care about him. No, you do. You need, like, otherwise like,
you need to give us a reason to care.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on
it's
here?
also just distracting between the fact that they already know who they are. I'm just seeing Jack Black and Lizzo. I'm not seeing I don't even know what their names were. It was just Jack Black and Lizzo, the king and queen.
I don't even know what their names are. You know what I'm thinking about it? What actually were their names?
I don't know. They bring him. Oh, Captain Bombardier and the Duchess. I guess.
Okay, so she's just the Duchess. So she's just.
Now I will say, Jack Black. I will welcome him in anything. I love Jack Black. I think if you would have just had him and an unknown, this would have had a lot more impact. Or just have Lizzo and without a Jack Black.
No.
I would prefer just Jack Black. I think Lizzo. I'm sorry, she's not an actress. It just every line felt like she was just saying a thing. There was no connection with her in that character.
She acted it like she was in Barbie Island Princess. She has one of the worst lines in this entire episode, which is, my husband used to be an Imperial, but I know his heart is true. And you're like, what are you doing? You are popping out of a Barbie movie. This woman is not trained to be an actress. Yeah. Jack Black at least has skill. He's been in movies. He is an actor. Like, he's done stuff. I would
and the part
way
kind of
sooner
fits him,
accept
like a
him.
goofy. I think they should have focused develop him a little bit more at the beginning of like, he's just a goofy, weird, aloof kind of guy who he used to be an Imperial, whatever. But like the two of them, it was literally distracting. Like I was having a tough time paying attention to what they were actually saying because every time Lizzo talked, it was just she was talking at the person. There was no character connection to the other characters, and so it was just tough for me to relate that to this world. It just didn't work. It just didn't work well for me. And I don't think it worked well for a lot of people.
It was definitely an SNL skit vibe to me. Like I immediately when I saw them, I could not take it seriously. Like your brain just switches and it takes you out of the fact that you're watching Star Wars and it goes, oh, reality. And that's the problem. And I know some people would love to play devil's advocate with me on this because they're like, oh, but The Mandalorian's had a million other cameos before and you've been complaining about those. I'm like, yeah, but Bill Burr was a character.
Dude, Bill Burr was an awesome. He also fit that role, and also he's a good actor, dude. He was in Breaking Bad and stuff. Like he's actually surprisingly a good actor, and I can separate him from his comedy. Lizzo,
dude, he had the best scene in Mandalorian season 2. He had like one of the best scenes in the entire show in Mando season 2.
But yes,
next to Luke Skywalker, of course. But like his acting in that scene with Mando, where he's just seething until he shoots that Imperial guy, is like one of the best acted scenes in the entire show.
Yeah, he added a lot, and she's just all right. We just added a musician to this because she's famous right now. Like I don't know, I just
that was forcing
cheap.
It on us.
It just felt cheap. It's very cheap. That's the best way I can describe it.
Well, they just forced it on us. look, guys, Lizzo.
No
oh,
pun
the kids
intended.
they like Lizzo, don't they? Like, that to me was a very corporate Disney move.
Well, I'm angry, tell they gotta be great. Don't test me and tell it straight to my face. And it put me down, and then I holding me back. It's just my sound. I don't know any Lizzo songs other than that one. Okay. So weird, and then automatically Grogu loves her and like force jumps to her. Just weird. Like I was so confused as to what this storytelling, what they were trying to do here, and like how they expect us to just be like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. I mean, we have willing suspension of disbelief already because it's Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. There's a point where you go, all right, you kind of lost me, and so it was just a weird way to start it off. They know everything about him. Didn't make any sense. And then they just trust him immediately. They're like, hey, you can help us with our droid problem. They bring him out on the deck there, and they just tell him everything about their droid problem. Again, why? You just met these people. You don't even know, like, apparently you know everything about what they're capable of, but how? And, like, there's just no connection there whatsoever. Well, they just assume that they're going to help him out.
Even Bo-Katan says, respectfully, but what does this have to do with us?
True. What does it have to do with them?
They're like, what is this? How does this tie into what we're doing here? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I thought it was just...
Yeah, they're like, we want to go see the privateers, the Mandalorians. Like, you can, but you have to solve this mystery for us first. It felt very video game-esque. Like, you go to the place, and then there's like a magic mage there sitting there, and you click A, and then he goes, please help us with our problem. We have droid issues throughout the city. If you can solve this, I'll lead you to your privateers. And then you have to click A or B to accept or not accept.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of felt like. Kind of interesting here where they're like, hey, we have these battle droids problems. They've been reprogrammed, but we're seeing issues with them. And then the Duchess says, like, I'm aware of your split between Woves and, like, the Woves and Krees have this issue with Mandalore. I'm like, how... That's a lot of context that doesn't take 2 seconds to go, oh, I read their chain code. Now I know everything about them. No, you'd have to do a lot of reading to understand that.
Yeah.
That was just, she knew way too much. It was just very bizarre. Then the next scene, they're like, okay, fine, we'll accept your
As if it wasn't absurd enough.
If it wasn't absurd enough, they go down and then just Christopher Lloyd. Which, by the way, I love Christopher Lloyd. I'm really happy to see he's still acting. He's old. He actually does strangely really fit into the Star Wars universe. He looks very Star Wars-esque. His character was just not written very well. This initial scene is fine where he's explaining the droid stuff to them, how it works, the security camera footage. We get to see the droids malfunctioning, what's going on. I don't think that really took me out of it as much. It's just later on in this episode, when he's explaining like his motivation and stuff, it made no sense at all.
He just popped in and he's like, whoops, I'm evil.
Yeah.
It was, I think, you know what it kind of reminded me of?
Yeah, what?
It reminded me a little bit of the Prime Minister on Mandalore that betrays Satine Almec. He was in the Clone Wars. Yeah, he's Prime Minister Almec. Almec.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of that, but just significantly less well done. You know? Like, Saturday morning cartoon villain, he came off to me like a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, he came in and then he came in and then left.
Well, he was also like, who's under that mask? Let's expose the person. They pull it off. Not the security guard. Like, I don't know. It was stupid. It was just really dumb.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, look, no disrespect to Christopher Lloyd. I love him, but it's like, what are you doing here?
I don't blame him. I actually think he played this role exactly how he was supposed to. I think he did. He fits in the Star Wars universe great. I would actually like to see more of him in the Star Wars universe. I just think his writing the writing for his character wasn't very good and just not fleshed out. So then they're like, all right, like, again, we're moving so quickly. They know everything about him. They send him to Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd tells them the problem. They go down, they see the Ugnaughts now. And it's like, so much has happened. We already had that first scene. Then they go to this party. Grogu's already great friends with him. They know everything about him. They go to the droid problem. They accept the mission. And they go down to the Ugnaughts and they're like, hey, what's the problem with the droids? And the Ugnaughts aren't willing to talk about it. I will say another positive thing here. Practical effects were amazing. Ugnaughts are really cool. The voice acting was really good from all of them. The lore behind this, the themes that they were playing from season 1 of Mando, you know, those motifs of whatever that guy's name was, who he's friends with, the ASWP guy.
Keely,
yeah,
whatever his name was.
And how Din relates to them because he knew him. That was cool. I really like that. It's just so much is happening so quick. You can't really sit in these moments at all, you know?
Yep.
Din explains to Kryze, what they're like, how to relate to them, all this stuff. Now they go down to the they go to the battle droid guy who's like in charge of these super battle droids and stuff. And good, cool stuff here. We get the battle droid voice from Clone Wars in this part, which is great to hear. You're like, oh, there you go. Great. Love to hear
we
that.
get a mention of the Clone Wars from Bo-Katan.
Get a mention of the Clone Wars from Bo-Katan. Exactly. Cool stuff. Again, another positive with this episode. This scene was cool. These super battle droids have been repurposed. They look evil, but they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And Din just starts bullying them, which I thought was hilarious because I forgot, by the way, that Din is like racist against droids.
Droidsist.
Yeah, he's droidist. And he just starts kicking them and stuff. And then magically, hey, that was easy. You kick him twice. And then he iRobots. It's literally a scene out of iRobot, dude. I don't know if you noticed that. It's like
I did.
When Will Smith is in the warehouse with all the robots.
Yeah, and he messes with the one.
And then Sonny starts running away. It's the exact same thing.
He's
just lumbering, sprinting around, which I didn't know they were that fast.
Which, by the way, Bo-Katan has like such a stupid line here. She's like, "Oh, they're all decommissioned, right?" And I'm like, respectfully, ma'am, Din provoked this.
Yeah.
That was not the battle. I was like totally on the battle droids side with that. I was like, Din invited this, so not really on the droid.
No, he totally provoked them. They chase him. They have this cool scene through the city. Another positive with this, that city at night looked awesome. Like the neon lights and stuff, really cool set. It didn't seem like they were in the volume at all. Reminded me a lot of episode 2 when Obi-Wan and Anakin are chasing the changeling through Coruscant. I thought that was awesome. Have more scenes in that world. That looked so cool. Bo-Katan takes him out. Those police droids come out, cross off the scene. They find that little thingy on the droid, which is like a business card for the droid bar. Okay, droid bar. What are they doing? Are they going to be pounding blue milk? What's going on there?
Pounding oil.
Which apparently they are. They go to the droid bar called the Resistor. And very cool scene here, I thought. It's a droid bar, cool creative element of Star Wars. A lot of practical effects here I thought was really dope as well. The voice of the bartender was awesome. Like really
that was
cool
sick.
Sound design there. Doing a little bit of a good cop, bad cop thing here.
Advocating for droid rights.
All the droids are like, we're on your side. We're here to serve organics or whatever they call them, which that's cool. A really cool element of the episode. I think this is all great stuff that they should have tied in more throughout the season and like sit in these moments more. Like you're just skipping around to all these things so quickly and it's hard to actually enjoy it. The bartender explains that they're served Nepenthe. Cool name. I thought that was a creative name. Like we like to make fun of some of the cringy lines they have, like Tongs Days and stuff. Nepenthe, that's a cool, interesting little thing. Like, oh, droids have Nepenthe to replenish themselves and it helps reprogram them to like make them run smoother. Like I think that was really cool.
Nepenthe sounds like Rura Penthe from Star Trek, the place where Kirk and Bones get banished to. It's like the snow planet of Rura Penthe.
Right. So then they go
I know niche Star Trek things.
You sure do, and you're a licensed Star Wars or Star Trek artist.
I am.
So they reprogram the local droids, blah, blah, blah. They find out they need to go figure out what this Nepenthe is doing to the droids. They go find the chick, the female lab tech, who's looking at the entangled battle droid. This reminded me of Men in Black, the scene from Men in Black when they're in the morgue and they pull the guy out and they see the little alien in the guy's head in the first Men in Black. Kind of similar to that. I didn't know there was droid morgues, but that's kind of a funny thing. They're seeing if these Nepenthe can make the droids whatever go haywire, and it can. The thing attacks them. Blah blah blah. They look into what's going on with the Nepenthe. They see the
Scooby-Doo villain of the week is.
Well, I think the funny thing here was the lab tech studies the chain code and says that they were manufactured by the Techno Union. We get a reference to the Techno Union, which I love. Techno Union dude is awesome. The guy with his little Techno Union.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That guy is. They killed him in the Clone Wars arc, didn't they?
Yeah.
With they killed him there. I liked that guy.
And then we find out who the Scooby-Doo villain of the week is. We find out pretty quickly it is Christopher Lloyd.
Shocking.
Which, by the way, dude, this all happened within 10 or 15 minutes. Like we've just jumped from one thing to the next to the next. It just felt so quick. They figured this out. So they go confront him. And they're like, hey, why have you been doing this? And they say they're aware of the Nepenthe and the nano droids, blah, blah, blah. Christopher Lloyd says he never surrendered to the Republic. He thinks Count Dooku was a visionary. Count Dooku reference here. Love that. And then Bo-Katan knocks him out. He gets zapped and then falls down. Okay, great. Then we see Grogu and the Duchess playing like bocce ball or like Star Wars bocce ball, whatever that was. I saw that thing that you posted. It was like or you liked it. It's that TikTok of like, ask your doctor about Chantix. And it's like them throwing and like
them playing it. It's like
they made it into like a prescription drug
medication commercials.
Yeah. Weird scene, dude. And like Grogu's making her cheat. Okay, fine. And then they just come in and they're like, hey, you are in trouble. Like, we found the guy who did your thing. We did it really quick, by the way. We did it in probably 6 or 7 hours. Then they're like, we're gonna exile you. We're gonna exile you to the moon of
They're like, you bad boy.
Yeah.
And then he's like weirdly sympathetic about it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I did this. I'm so sorry I disappointed you. What? Like, that made no sense to me. He literally talks in the previous scene. He goes, he's a separatist. He's a Seppi, as they like to call him in the Clone Wars. He's a Seppi.
Yeah.
And he doesn't agree with, like, the Republic or the New Republic or whatever. And then the following scene, he's, like, all remorseful. And he's, like, being disciplined by Mommy and Daddy, Mommy Lizzo and Daddy Jack Black.
Yeah, and then they just give him a key to the city that they just happen to have lying around. What? What was that? Why did they do that?
This episode
they just have keys to the city lying around?
This episode was on death sticks.
It was. You don't want to sell me death sticks.
You don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life. And then they Knight Grogu? This is when I was like, okay, guys, I haven't had a second to even process the last 4 scenes. What is going on? So she knights him in Ancient Order of the Independent Regencies, whatever the hell that means. And then they wave goodbye. Okay, great. And then they're just on their way. You can go to see the privateers now. You completed your quest for us. They're on the way there. It's daytime now. It was night before. Now it's daytime. They've just been up all night. They're fine. No problem. I'm not tired. We're just going to keep going and talk to the people. Okay, fine. Whatever. So they get there and they see ASWPs. They're in their little like military thing. This reminds me of kind of like knights in shining armor in their little camp. You know, they have like their little crest on their flags and stuff. Mm-hmm. Kind of a cool like set design and stuff here, I thought. Another positive. Kryze is saying she's come to reclaim her fleet. She challenges ASWPs. When they're like, we're gonna fight each other, he immediately shoots a rocket at her, which I thought was hilarious. You're just gonna blast her to pieces. I thought this was more about like a battle of like who's gonna punch each other better. Kind of a cool fight scene here.
She basically used the same dialogue that when Pre Vizla and Maul fight. Which is, I challenge you, one warrior to another.
Mandalorians are very much about that. They love challenging one another. It's a very much an honor type thing. Cool fight scene. I think she held her own. It wasn't too like disbelievable for her to like win that. I thought I think she's a good character. I like Bo-Katan a lot. I think she's a strong character this season. I think she adds a lot to the show. She gets blasted in the face a couple times. He just punches her so hard.
And I love like how there's like no repercussion for that. I watched that the second time. Like the first time I watched it, I was fine with it. The second time I watched it, I was like, are there no bruises from getting punched in the face?
No bloody noses. Like she got rocked.
Yeah, she got slammed in the face. And it just would have been a little bit more realistic to see some kind of damage from that. Like, no,
like have him limping a little bit or something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, enough Mandalorian blood has been spilled. She spares him. She wins. Woves counters that Din Djarin is a misguided zealot. She's like, oh, he's every bit as Mandalorian as we are, blah, blah, blah. And then whoever is the ruler of Mandalore needs to have the Darksaber. And then we have this whole weird thing of he's like, well, actually, technically, she did beat me, so she wins on a technicality because she saved me from that cyborg in the mines of Mandalore. Here's the thing, and everyone's like, oh, wow, cool. Wow,
I can't tell you how disappointing this was from a story standpoint.
It's just such a weird, like, I get what they were trying to do.
It's a cop-out. That's what that is. It's a cop-out. It is a cheap way to give Bo-Katan power and I said this in my reaction video, but Bo-Katan's arc in every single show she's appeared in has been the exact same. It's been about her wanting to reclaim Mandalore. That was her story in Clone Wars to an extent. That was her story in Rebels, and it's her same story in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And they just gave the biggest cop-out of all time, which is, oh, she won on a technicality.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, they could have done this if those episodes were closer together, or like maybe Din just gave it to her in that episode and be like, technically you won this. That would have been better. I don't know why they didn't give it to her then. Like this weird explaining things and being like, she won on a technicality, guys. And then she activates the Darksaber and that's the end of the episode. You're like, all right, that's kind of, again, cheap.
It's very cheap. They could have created something really compelling. Like, here's the thing is like, you could have had Din and Bo duel each other. And it didn't have to be like this dramatic thing where they hate each other's guts, but it could have been this interesting character parallel, like between different beliefs. Like, what if that was like a duel that they had in front of like the different factions of Mandalore? Yeah, that would have been so sick.
Bilbo, I'm going to grab him real quick.
Oh my God, you put him in the cone of shame.
He has allergies right now.
Hi, Bilbo, you're so cute. Oh my God, he's so precious. What the heck?
He has allergies right now, so he has his cone on. Don't you?
Was he crying?
Yeah, he was crying. Were you sad?
No, baby. No,
so
but what I was saying is like it just would have been interesting if Bo and Din had like fought each other. Like it doesn't matter. It was just like you could have come up with like a million other ways for her to get the Darksaber back. You could have written a really compelling story, but no, you made it lame. And technically, I guess that little bug thing was the ruler of Mandalore for a second.
Yeah, dude, totally. It was just cheap, and I don't know why. Like, I ended this episode being like, okay, that was just so all over the place. They crammed so much in there, and explore some of this a little bit more. Like that planet, the Night World there, the set of that, like this droid the droid conspiracy thing with Christopher Lloyd. Like they solved that immediately, and it was just like this. I don't know. It just didn't flow very well. It felt kind of rushed. The pacing was just really strange. The Lizzo thing took me out of it. Grogu's not even really in the show much. I mean, he is this most recent episode, but I don't know. Very average episode to me. It wasn't the worst thing ever. I'd give it probably like a 6.3. I'd say it's a little bit above average, I think, and that's just because of the effects, the voice, the sound design of the droids, the set design, the action sequences of Bo fighting Axe Woves was really cool. And I didn't hate it like everyone else did. I just thought it didn't really contribute much to the overall story, except for the last 2 minutes. So for that reason, I'm out.
First 5 minutes and last 5 minutes are the only necessary watching of this episode. Everything else was like, what are you doing here? I'd probably give it like I mean, special effects were great in this episode, so for that, I think it'd be like a 5 out of 10. It's not super strong, but the special effects were great, and it didn't feel like they were standing on a set, which is something that I really, really liked. So I think on that regard, it's fine. It's just like, this episode felt like corporate Disney to me. It just felt like somebody was sticking their fingers in where they didn't belong, and this was the result because of it.
That's fair. Overall, wasn't super impressed with it, but there were some really cool elements to it. I didn't absolutely hate it. I enjoyed it. Like I still watched it and was like, oh, cool. Like that's a cool sequence right there. That's a cool Star Wars-y thing. It just, as a storytelling thing, like it just wasn't amazing. But that's it for episode 6. We should jump into episode 7, which
please,
was
by all
very
means.
strong. Very strong.
Episode 7 just completely switched the tone of the entire season 3 around.
Yeah.
Where it was like, we've been fonduing for 6 episodes, but now we'll start to tell a good story.
Yeah, totally. This one was written by Jon Favreau, directed by Rick Famuyiwa.
I think Dave Filoni also consulted.
Written by Dave Filoni as well, sorry. Dave
which
Filoni
explains a lot.
The official description of this is survivors come out of hiding.
The Spies.
The Spies is what it is called. So this one, long, first of all, great. I love that. It was about 48 minutes runtime, 49 minutes, something like that, total, not including credits. We open up. Elia Kane, Citizen Kane, whatever her name is, was walking
Elia
through Coruscant.
Kane, something like
Yeah,
that.
whatever, Elia. She's walking through Coruscant. Cool set design here. She meets with a Viper probe droid. Scans her face. She gives her number, TK2755. And
she's a stormtrooper.
Stormtrooper.
Yep.
We see the return, a much-awaited return of the villain of The Mandalorian. Moff Gideon is back, who is trying to get a report from her. She's been feeding him information. She talks about Navarro, how the pirates ran into trouble. So we know that he kind of coordinated that. For whatever reason, he's interested in Navarro. They didn't really revisit that again, but for some reason he's interested in Navarro. Maybe it's because of the Mandalorian covert there or something. I don't know. She says the Mandalorians are joining forces. The factions are joining forces, and he is surprised by this because they don't really like each other. He tells her, continue with your mission. I'm going to deal with these Mandalorians. He knows it's going to be an issue for him. Cool opening scene. I thought good reintroduction to Giancarlo Esposito back in the season. Strong start to the episode.
I think it was very Blade Runner-y. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I said that
in my reaction too.
Oh, did you? Did you really? I didn't say it in my reaction video, but I watched this episode twice, and upon my second watch, I was like, I am getting some really intense Blade Runner vibes. You know, the music, the way the camera followed her, all the way to her meeting to Moff Gideon. The camera direction is something that we need to talk about in this episode because it felt so cinematic. Like this whole episode was just shot very, very, very well, and I think that contributed to why it was so good. And I really enjoy Giancarlo Esposito. I think he's awesome as Moff Gideon. He's like so unfazed, but he's so threatening because he's so unfazed.
He's a great bad guy. He's great in Breaking Bad, too. He's obviously Gus Fring in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Excellent actor. And a great addition to Star Wars. Again, really fits into the universe nicely, I think.
I only have one complaint.
What's that?
They got rid of his mustache.
Oh, they did.
And he doesn't have that badass mustache anymore. And I didn't notice it the first time I watched it. But the second time I watched it, I was like, there's a whole integral part of his face missing. And they took it away.
Wow, I didn't notice that. Good catch. No more mustache. Gideon, then we see this next scene. Next scene is awesome. We see Gideon walking down a hallway flanked by several soldiers wearing white armor. Very cool, Mandalorian-esque. These are his new crew.
His bitches.
His bitches, his entourage. Walks into a laboratory of tanks where we see some cloning stuff going on. Very cool here. Looks like some Snoke silhouettes in there. Very cool production here and set design of wherever they are here. He enters the Imperial conference room, whatever that is, where they're in holograms talking with one another.
The Shadow Council.
The Shadow Council. A lot to discuss here. Really cool scene. They're talking about the Empire coming back up. Moff Gideon's concerns, and we get a couple interesting little cameos here. So very cool scene overall, but a lot to unpack. What did you think of this scene?
I appreciated that we finally had a scene where, like we were discussing a few weeks ago, where the characters just talk for 5 minutes straight. And their dialogue is important and valuable because you're getting a sense of how the Empire is trying to function after the downfall of the Emperor, and how they're coming together to kind of as they say in this conference, they're like, how do we get the people to rally behind us? They're getting sick of the New Republic. How do we play off of that and get them to believe in us again now that we no longer have a leader? And so I appreciate the fact that they just let the scene breathe and be a scene and let these characters have conversations. I was really engaged the entire time I was watching this. I was just holding on to every little bit of dialogue because I'm like, this is fascinating. This is what I've wanted to see from Mando season 3 for the whole season is stop doing all these quick cuts from camera shot to camera shot. And it felt so cinematic in the sense where it's this is an important part of the plot and what's happening. And to get into these characters' mindsets, we're going to actually sit with them and let them have a discussion. And I was just relieved to see that come back. So in that regard, I really enjoyed the scene for that.
I mean, comparing this to the last episode, you're totally right. Letting the scene breathe, listening to the dialogue, having important stuff here. It was just an interesting, captivating scene. between the where they are, the characters that are there, trying to pay attention to who it is, was really cool. Now, there's a couple interesting things here. We see a General Hux, which apparently is the General Hux's dad from the sequels. I was
played by his brother.
That. They didn't make played by his brother. They didn't make that super clear, so I was a little confused by that at the beginning. But that's a cool cameo. We also get a General Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, reference here. So,
don't you dare degrade him in rank.
Sorry. Admiral Thrawn, we get his reference here, which is really interesting. And we also get the mention of Project Necromancer, which I'm guessing has to do with the Chancellor Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine coming back, and the cloning stuff. And then there's also a couple other interesting things here. So we get this bald male commander there who's kind of dressed in Jedi robes. Did you see that guy?
He's dressed in Jedi robes?
Kind of, yeah. He's wearing kind of like what Luke wears in Return of the Jedi.
What's his name? Which commander guy?
I don't know. I don't think he had a name. He was bald and kind of fat. We also get Captain, what is it, Paleon, whatever his name is?
Paleon?
Yep.
He's from
Thrawn's
Heir to the Empire.
Man.
Yeah, he's from Heir to the Empire. He also appeared in Star Wars Rebels.
Yep. So that's a cool little cameo as well. I don't know if you were able to pull up that bald guy. I don't know if you were able to see that.
Looking up bald Commander Mandalorian. The 3 characters they pulled up were Bilbo from Mandalorian, Paz Vizla, and Captain Rex. Mando.
All right, let me see it.
Mandalorian. Hold on, Shadow Council. Let me just look up the Shadow Council. Oh, yeah, the fat guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I see what you mean.
He's kind of fat and bald. What is he wearing?
They don't show his full outfit, which is really annoying. Yeah, they don't show his... I'm looking up this article on Screen Rant, which is what is the Shadow Council? Hey, get off me, ads. Nope. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I'm trying... Oh, here, I got him. Look at him here. So... This guy. What is he wearing there? That looks like Jedi robes.
That still looks pretty Imperial to me.
Dude.
Boy, he kind of looks like, what's his face from Austin Powers?
Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil. He looks
Dude,
like
look at him. I mean, maybe, yeah, I don't know. Kind of looks Jedi. Either way. Interesting. So interesting scene here. The Shadow Council stuff, really good meat and potatoes of the story. I think that's great. Gideon is kind of planning his... laying out his plan to them, talks about Thrawn's return. They're looking for new leadership, kind of how the New Republic is not what it chalked up to be for everyone else. There's still a lot of Imperial support. Awesome stuff here.
Also, Moff Gideon seems to have motivation to just, he seems to be working for his own plans as opposed to the plans of the Empire. This does not seem like a guy that's, working for the Empire. He's making the Empire work for him.
Totally. He also he's requesting more equipment, some bombers. He requests some Praetorian guards. Interesting stuff here. He's concerned about an assassination attempt, and he's talking about the Mandalorians retaking their homeworld of Mandalore. I don't know why that would be a huge problem for them. I guess maybe Mandalorians would resist Empire takeover more because of the Night of 1,000 Tears. So they're like, all right, let's wipe them out. And then they leave the scene saying, long live the Empire. We get to Navarro. We see blah blah blah. Oh, we see Karga's there. They see the Mandalorian fleet flying over it. Karga's like, these are our welcomed guests. Is explaining to his droid that it's not an Imperial ship. It's actually taken over. Blah blah blah. Cool stuff here. They land at the Mandalorian covert and they get out, and we have the little showdown between the 2 Mandalorian tribes. The armorer welcomes the newcomers, says the feast needs to be prepared, and then we cut to Karga introducing Din Djarin and Grogu to IG-12. This is my favorite scene in the episode, I think. We see the refurbished droid on IG-11's chassis, piloted by an Inzellan droid smith. The droid has been stripped of his memory circuits, and the Inzellans kind of walking him around. They kind of did a little jerry-rigging of how this droid works, and is using it. They said that you can use it as a vehicle for Grogu. So the Anzellan walks away. I love these Anzellans. They're so Star Warsy. The interactions between
bad baby, no, squeezy.
Fantastic impression. That's on point. The little interactions between Grogu and him is just, it's so Star Wars to me. And it's just like, I don't know. I loved it.
Did you see that video going around where it's like, does the Anzellan say, "I'm out, mofo"?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to rewatch the actual scene in it because I think someone may have just added that in. But I did see that. Yeah, maybe they cursed at the end a little bit. The hilarious moment here as Din is like, Grogu's too young to operate the machinery, but Grogu uses the droid. It can only say yes and no, and Grogu's like, no. And he's like, I want to ride it. And then Din's like, no. And then he's like walking around going, yes, no, yes. Hilarious.
I thought this was very brilliant.
Brilliant. Like the idea of putting him in that unit is just very creative, very smart. This is Grogu at his best. He's the star of the show. He can never do anything wrong. We love him.
He's so cute. It's just perfect. It's, you know what I've missed this season above all is I've missed the interaction between Din and Grogu. You know, just like their pure cute moments. You know, like how Din is guiding Grogu to fix the Razor Crest in the second season. Where he's like, no, the blue wire goes where the red wire is. It's like those little tiny interactions. We haven't had much of them this season at all. And so to kind of like,
and that's
get
the bread and butter
nice.
of the show. Yeah, that's the bread and butter of the show. Like that's what keeps people coming back. And it's organic and it feels very Star Warsy. And like, I just thought the scene was really well written. It's just, it's perfect for all the characters involved. Mm-hmm. Then we see him walking around. He's trying to grab the fruit off the street. Din's like, you got to pay for that. And he's just like, yes.
No, yes.
We get a cameo from Melu Run, the fruit that you told me about in our first season of Bad Batch. I learned the name of that now, so it's Melu Run is the name of that. He grabs one of it, he squashes the fruits. Awesome scene. I loved this. It was just lovely. Then later that night, the Mandalorian factions are together. They're talking about their plans to retake Mandalore. Kryze is telling them they need to get a posse to go scout the surface. And once it's safe, they'll bring down the others. They need volunteers. And slowly, the Mandalorians start volunteering, including the armorer. Following day, they depart.
Council of Elrond.
Yeah, it is. And you have my bow.
And my sword.
Yeah.
You know, knowing Dave Filoni, it's just, it probably is knowing his track record.
Oh, yeah. I mean, whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's definitely inspiration from Lord of the Rings throughout anything Filoni puts his hands on. The following day, they depart Navarro. The Kryze is leading the scouting party down to Mandalore's surface in the Gauntlet. They are doing a weird little drop thing where they're like paratrooping down to the surface. I don't know why they didn't just land. Like, Din landed fine. Like, this is kind of unnecessary how they're doing it like a covert operation. They're like, go, go, go. And they all fall down and they jetpack to the ground. It's just to look cool.
Camera shots. They're still like cool really great camera shots. The way they pan out, they're focusing on Din, they focus in on Din as you have like that little, all the Mandalorians and their like, their Batu seating for the ride. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. I thought that was well directed.
It was really cool how they land, and then they secured it so then the other ships can come down. Kryze is explaining that Sundari is down below. They'll survey the surface and establish a perimeter, and then others can come down when it's safe. At this time, we see the Mad Max Mandalorians come.
Mad Max Mandalorian.
Mad Max / Pirates of the Caribbean Mandalorians. Come and they run into them, and they notice that Bo is wearing the sigil of the Night Owls. They call her Lady Kryze. They're obviously very loyal to her. They seem to not be doing so hot. They're pretty weak, it looks like. I don't know how they've been down there for so long surviving, but somehow they have been. Creative stuff here. It's like a big pirate ship that they're on. A lot of pirate references in this season so far.
Yeah.
But a cool addition to the show.
Okay, who are these actors, by the way? Because they were familiar to me.
Yeah, they looked familiar. I'm not sure exactly.
I can't pinpoint who those actors were, but it was driving me crazy because I recognized one of the guys in the middle. Who was that? Because he is so familiar to me. I cannot put my finger on it.
Do we know what his name was?
God, the character
name?
name?
Charles Parnell. That's who it was. I think he had the blonde hair, right? He's in Top Gun Maverick.
That's it. He's the commander in Top Gun Maverick. That was it. I am telling you, this guy came on the screen. I'm like, I'm gonna go insane. I know this guy. That makes sense. That makes sense. He's cool. I like him. He's cool.
Cool guy. Yeah, they all seem like bros. They're cool dudes. Interesting addition. Very creative Star Wars-y elements here. They are having a nice little bonding moment here, talking about the Night of 1,000 Tears. And Kryze explains that she actually did surrender to the Empire, and Moff Gideon betrayed them, and really just like demolished Mandalore. He's a big jerk. Essentially, what we get from this. Some cool developments here as we understand how ruthless Moff Gideon actually is, how he betrayed her, and killed all survivors on the planet, or tried to at least.
Yeah.
The armorer explains that they had hit on the moon of Concordia. We get a Death Watch reference here, which I thought was interesting.
Which is weird that she says, like, Death Watch has dissipated, but, like, Din is a child of the Watch.
Yeah.
So, like, why? That's so weird to me. Like, that bit of dialogue was strange to me. I'm like, you guys are the children of the Watch. So Death Watch really hasn't dissipated all that much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That is weird.
I thought that was so strange.
But cool reference. I mean, at least we get that. Bo's a little discouraged after this scene. Din comes up to her in private and says that he had no idea, or he says he had no idea that, and had been taught by his tribe that everyone had forsaken the way of Mandalore. He believed that Kryze was selfish and uncaring, but he understands she's a good leader and blah blah blah.
Then why didn't we see that earlier in the season? That drove me crazy. Like, can we see evidence of Din thinking that she's selfish?
Yeah, they haven't really focused on his internal monologue
feelings
at all. Yeah.
Like, they could have built that up. I think that's something that I want to criticize on, is, like, as much as I enjoyed this episode, like, we did not earn any build up to this point. Like, we don't even know Din's opinion on the Darksaber.
Again, they had to spoon feed it to you and be like, here's how he's been feeling. And you're like, why don't you just show me? Show me how he was feeling.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you actually just, like, give me some dialogue? Like, he needed some tense dialogue with her where he's like, we don't respect you because of this.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. He's been really sidelined, I feel. He understands now. She's like, I don't know if I can lead the people. The Darksaber is the only thing that can unite us. Din is brutally honest and is like, to be honest, we don't really care about the Darksaber. We just care about loyalty and honor. I'm like, yeah, you don't say. He hasn't cared about the Darksaber at all. He's just been like, I have this thing. It looks cool, and I fight with it sometimes, but we don't care.
I just wish they would have given us more into that mindset of, like, him actually maybe having an argument with her about it, and then they come to it, like, respect each other. Like, they haven't had that much tension between each other. You know, It's just been like, oh, you do this and I do that. Like, but they never really argued over it or had, like, character conflict that led them to respect the other person more. It's just like, okay, I guess we respect each other now.
Yeah.
Which has been really disappointing.
Yeah. It's, again, this is, like, the stuff that has impacted the whole season. Is just not enough of this development. It's too much of this side plot stuff where you could be using it to tell more robust stories about each character. The following day, they continue their search for the Forge. They're kind of bored as they're on their way there. On their pirate ship, Paz Vizla is playing ASWP in a game of chess, or whatever they're talking about. They have all this weird dialogue here about flanking. A jumper flank is flanking the flanker jump. And Woves accuses him of cheating. Vizla takes out his cool vibrating knife thing, and they want to fight because that's how Mandalorians do it. They're all about honor and fighting each other and challenging. So they start fighting, and the cool fight scene here, interesting choreography for the fight scene. Bo's like, you can't break them up now. This has to happen. And
I love how it was just like she was so resigned and accepting of this. Where Din's like, can I stop this? And she's like, this was bound to happen. Like, she's just
let him fight it out. Hug it out, bitch.
Yeah.
And following this tussle, right as it's reaching a crux, we see none other than Grogu break it up, just going no. Awesome, bringing this back in from that earlier scene, like Grogu talking essentially now, which I think is awesome. Like, this is how we first get to hear Grogu talk, which I think was just really well done. I'm glad this is how they decided to do it, was through a droid. Just very creative. It adds more depth to the character without making him talk like this. Hey, I'm from Brooklyn. My name's Grogu.
I'm Grogu.
So the two men walk away after Grogu breaks it up, and Kryze is like, you taught your apprentice well. Interesting how they use the word apprentice here. I loved that. Jaren's like, I didn't teach him that. He did that on his own.
Because it was Luke. That's his Jedi side coming out.
Which I thought was awesome. Great stuff there. So back on Mandalore. Oh, I'm sorry. The armorer has to take up. She goes back up to take some of these. I guess they're just weak, hungry, and stuff. They takes them back up to the fleet. The armorer just decides to taxi them up there.
Highly suspicious, by the way. Very convenient for you to get out of the way right as bad things are about to happen.
Now, I think they've done a pretty good job in terms of character development with her over the build over the last couple seasons. Like, she's an interesting character. I'm very cautious. I don't love her as a character, but they've done a good job of you being like, what's her motive here? Like, it's interesting the way she's progressed, and like each move that she has, you're really like thinking about it. Like, what's she going to do next? Who is she? There's a big mystery surrounding her, which I think has been interesting.
Very convenient for her to leave right as things are about to go to shit.
Right, exactly. So that's on purpose, by the way, too. Like, hey, we want to cast some doubt on her, which I think they might end up quelling those concerns. I think they're trying to pull, it's a red herring kind of thing where they're trying to make you think that, but she ends up being good in some way. Or I could be wrong. Maybe she's evil. I don't know. The survivors are spotting something on the starboard side. I hated this. I don't like how they're using pirate terminology. They're like, on the starboard side.
Avast ye Mandalorian.
Avast ye Mandalorian. What plan be that?
What does avast mean?
I don't know. Avast.
Like hello?
Avast meaning. It's just an exclamation. Nautical is what it says in the Oxford Dictionary. A nautical command to stop or cease. Okay. So
cease ye Mandalorian.
So then they see this big dragon come out. I was confused. That was kind of like
the third big monster of the season.
Yeah, big monster. I guess there's dragons down there and stuff. Scary looking thing. Cool effects here. It really demolishes their cool pirate ship. And they have to retreat into an underground cave. They go through the cave down there and they go to the Great Forge. They're all very interested to see that. Reeves replies that it used to be their home. So kind of a cool element here of like, oh yeah, I guess they used to live there. They have to see the mines of Moria have been demolished. Very Lord of the Rings-esque vibes here too, kind of like Mines of Moria, whatever.
Yeah, very much so.
And while they're down here, they're ambushed by the Imperial commandos with the Beskar armor and jetpacks, leading to a gun battle. Really cool action sequences here. We see Axe Woves leaves very suspiciously, I might add, in this moment. He flies away through the hole in the thing.
Also,
did they really need backup? Because they seem to hold their own pretty well against these guys.
Yeah, they seemed fine. I don't know. It's like there are a lot of characters conveniently exiting at like the point of conflict here. And especially because Axe Woves could be seen as a character with motivation, because as he says in this scene, he says like, hey, I was here when Mandalore was destroyed.
Yeah.
During the Night of 1,000 Tears. Like, he's a direct survivor of what happened on Mandalore. So he's seen that, and it's like he could have been holding in like all this animosity towards Bo-Katan, but like even last season, like he was just kind of like standing there, and then all of a sudden we get all this character development for him. It's just I don't know. All of these kind of feel like red herrings.
You're right. It's interesting, I guess. It's I like the storytelling though, because it leaves more to be discussed and to think about. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you there. I do. Yeah.
So they fight them. They are fighting very well. We see how good the Mandalorians are at fighting, but these new stormtroopers are like also awesome.
Now, are they stormtroopers or are they clones?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, I'm guessing maybe clones. Here's my theory, and we can get to this in a little bit. Potentially maybe Moff Gideon clones. And my clue for that is they get lured to this blast door area. It's clearly a trap set, right? Someone ratted them out somehow. Or
I know where you're going with this.
And Moff Gideon comes down in his Dark Trooper suit, also looking badass. Looks awesome here. And
great camera direction, by the way, for the fight scene up until this point. I didn't bring that up, but I do want to give a call out to that.
Yes, I agree. Bilbo stuff. He says that he's in his cool Dark Trooper suit in his Beskar, and later on he says something about the best thing about it is that he is in it. He's like, the best thing about the suit is me, which is a badass, like, braggy thing to say.
Yeah.
But then it made me think, like, oh, what if he cloned himself? Like, because he is a smart, good battle warrior guy, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, and they're working on cloning. What if that's a bunch of clones of him?
Yeah, like the first phase.
Yeah, they could be clones of someone else. A different type of warrior. Could be no one. It could be conscripted soldiers for all we know. I don't know. But that just made me think a little bit. Maybe that's what Moff Gideon's up to. Is he's an arrogant person and he thinks, I don't trust anyone else but me to get my dirty work done. So.
Yeah, they could be. I just think it's interesting because these guys don't have voices. And we did hear a sound effect from one of them as they were getting beaten up in the previous scene. It is a guy's voice. But none of them
I'll
have
be interested to see what those are. A lot of intrigue here.
They're definitely coming off like they're clones of somebody. Like they're not just regular people. And they all seem to be like the same build and height.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Like there doesn't look like to be a lot of variety there. Yeah.
They end up subduing Din Djarin with their cool little Mandalorian whip thingies. Gideon has this monologue here, classic bad guy monologue, talking about his whole plan and the spirit of their Mandalorian culture will live with him. There's elements of the Jedi and the cloners to create a new army to restore order to the galaxy. Cool stuff here. I liked all those elements, bringing up the Jedi and the Kaminoans.
Quick note here.
Yeah.
Did you notice the Mandalorian helmet that he has on? It has like horns on it, very similar to Darth Maul, but also very similar to the armor.
Yep. I did notice that. Very interesting.
The one question I have here is, how did this armor get made for Moff Gideon? And could that potentially be a connection to the armorer who's known for this?
You beat me to it. Yep, you beat me to it. So, very good question. I'm thinking, how convenient. She volunteered in the earlier scenes, I will ferry them up to the top because she knows what's happening. Now she's fooled them by thinking, I'm going to go down to the surface with you. Oh, no, these guys are hurt. I guess I have to bring them to the ship.
Yep.
And then Moff Gideon's talking about how he has all this Mandalorian armor and is integrating their culture and stuff. And you're like, well, how did he know how to do that? What's her name is the Armorer. And you have all this armor. Very curious. Very curious stuff.
Also, the helmet design is the same. How did this get made? Like, she is the one. She told Din that their planet had been destroyed.
Yeah.
She told him that. And they're like, you can't go there because that planet is nothing but shattered glass. It would make sense for her, to kind of throw them off the scent because the Empire has clearly built a facility down there.
Yeah.
Over time,
so
and they still have control.
Built this whole facility. There's TIE interceptors. There's TIE bombers down there. It's been going on for a long time. He started it on Mandalore. Interesting choice of base. He's been planning this for a long time. So then he orders Din to be brought into a room for debriefing, a.k.a. torture, most likely. Kryze says she regrets not killing Gideon when she had the chance. And then Gideon says she must surrender the Darksaber. And we have a cool action sequence here as they just start firing at the blast door, all the Mandalorians. And then Kryze goes to the back, Bo-Katan, and then cuts a hole to let them out. And then he says, open the blast doors and get away. Then he conveniently flies away. Very video game-esque here when you're like in a level and you're trying to fight the boss, but you can't get to the boss yet
because the boss just conveniently escaped, and then you have to fight his minions.
And then we see the inevitable happening. I knew this when you saw Paz Vizla in the front. He decides he has this cool gun, and I'm like, he's a goner. He starts firing, starts holding him off. We see how great of a warrior he actually is here as he's blasting all these guys. Has great aim until his gun breaks, runs out of ammo, whatever. And then he has to fight down the rest of them, all the commando Mandalorian thingies, by hand. Makes quick work of them. He does a great job here. Then we have one of the darkest scenes in Star Wars, in my opinion. This next part I thought was awesome, good storytelling, and we need more stuff like this in Star Wars. Brutal death scene here, as Vizsla is attacked by the Praetorian guards that Moff Gideon had mentioned before. And he gives a defiant last stand, but eventually gets impaled by these guys several times who leave Paz Vizla to die on the floor. And that's how the episode ends. Very well done last scene, I thought. And sad. Paz Vizla, I mean, it's fitting. It makes sense. It's like, I think it's a good choice creatively and for the story, but cool way to end it.
Well, Ragnar is now fatherless.
He's just a foundling now.
He's just a random old foundling. I thought the last stand was good. It was a Clone Wars death. That's the best way I can put it. He got a Clone Wars.
The way they stabbed him, the music that was playing, it was kind of brutal, dude.
It was brutal. It was really intense, and finally, you see these guys actually be threatening, you know, because they stand
Dude, they
around.
Were badass too.
They stand around a lot and they look threatening in the original trilogy, and then, you know, in The Last Jedi, in my opinion, they were taken out a little too easily. Like, these guys are supposed to be elite, skilled warriors, and I don't know. I thought when they went up against Rey, I mean, like, they should have been more of a threat, at least I think. In this scene, I thought they did a really good job of creating that intensity and, like, the tragedy of that scene, and it was pretty violent. It's pretty dark.
Pretty violent. Dark ending to the show, and it leaves a lot to wonder about for next week. What do we think is going to happen next week?
They could torture Din. We could see Pedro Pascal's beautiful face as Din Djarin again next week. I mean, I think that's a possibility. Another possibility is that they could use the Mind Flayer on him.
Yep.
I don't know how likely that is. I really don't know how.
Will use it on him.
Yeah, Jim Gaffigan will use it on him. I don't know how likely that is. I really don't. They introduced that concept, so that is something that's on the back of my mind right now. I think the spies are, not to be totally stupid here. Remember that stupid line in the sequels where it's like Hux and he goes, "I'm the spy."
Oh yeah.
You know, that's so bad. So bad in The Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, I think the spies, the people most likely are ASWPs, the Armor, or the Mad Max Mandalorians. I think those would be the three most likely candidates, but my gut is telling me the Armor, although that could be a red herring.
Could be. The more I think about it, though, the more I doubt that. I think...
You doubt that it's a red herring?
Yeah, I think the Armor thing is too similar. Her conveniently leaving. The vibe she's had since the beginning, she seems like a plotting person.
Weird. Well, she's like also been like, Bo, you can remove your helmet, you're fine, but Din, you're bad. Boo.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see her progression. I also think next week we might see the death of a good character. I have heard rumors that it's supposed to be a very emotional ending, similar to season 2. You
don't think they're going to kill Din, do you?
I was just going to say, wouldn't love this decision, but I would not be surprised if they do.
You think they'd kill Din?
I think they might. It's not about him anymore. The show's not. They've sidelined him this season.
Dude, that would have backlash from the fans. That would not go over well.
I think it's going to end on a dark note. If he might not die, but I think they're going to end it on a very dark note, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I don't want to see him die, but I really wouldn't be super surprised. I don't know that his story's really done being told yet. That's my only reservation to saying that. But I
don't think his story is anywhere near done, especially with the way that they've sidelined him this season.
Yeah.
So that would be a huge bummer. That would disappoint me a lot if they did that, because
it could kill Bo too. By the way.
I highly doubt that. She just gets back the Darksaber and then she's off. I don't know. That doesn't add up in my mind to me. If they killed Din, my biggest gripe with that would be you didn't earn that. You didn't earn that at all, especially with the subpar season. Yeah. So
yeah. We could see Luke coming back next episode. Grogu gets in some trouble and Luke ends up coming back to save him in some way. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that. Or Ahsoka. One of those two coming back in some way. We're going to get some kind of cameo next episode, I think. And they're going to be setting up Ahsoka. They're going to try to get you excited for Ahsoka. So I think it'd make most sense to see Ahsoka. But I think they're going to try to lay the groundwork for the next couple TV shows. I also think we'll see Boba Fett next episode, because I think they're making a season 2 of that. And they might set that up as well. They'll maybe he has recruited some more Mandalorians or something, and they'll use his help, or maybe he uses his connections on Tatooine or something. There's a lot that could happen this next episode. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this was a really strong episode, probably the strongest of the season. This one and episode 2 are probably my favorites so far. But overall, really good. I thought this was like a 7-8 for me.
I think that this was probably like a 7-9 or an 8. It's on a different level than the rest of the season has been. I've found this season to be, I don't like saying this, but I found it to be rather lackluster, especially in comparison to the last 2 seasons. Like they haven't picked a focus, and it's felt very disjointed and very fragmented, as you've said. And for that reason, I've just been left feeling really disappointed. Like, I can't honestly say that I've been like waking up dying to watch The Mandalorian each week. And this week's episode was the first time I watched an episode in season 3, and I was like, yeah, wow, I'm excited. Now I feel like the season's just getting started, which is unfortunate because, like, it's like you said, it's like they're saving all this stuff for the very, very end of the season. It's like you could have built it up to be this great thing, but they haven't had a focus, and I think that's really hurt them. So I'd have to say like 7, 9, 8. Really enjoyed it. We'll have to see how they end this season, but dude, if they kill Din, that's gonna feel very unearned to me.
I agree. We'll see, but also the reunion with Grogu was a little unearned too. I think that's on my crazier theories, but we'll see. That's it, guys. That's it for this episode. What do you guys think is going to happen in the finale of Mandalorian Season 3? There's been some really good elements of this season. I just don't feel like it's had the same impact that Season 2 had. Let us know what your thoughts are. Are we wrong? Fill us in the comments or write us at anotherstarwarspod@gmail.com. The best question or theory will receive a free Another Star Wars Pod T-shirt for our final episode next week. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at @star_wars_pod. Please leave us a good review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also watch this on Spotify. Maybe you already are. Tell your friends, click the notification bell, and tune into our reaction videos next week. We also have a lot more stuff to come with Visions, and I'm going to be reacting to Rebels, and we have Ahsoka coming up. So much more Star Wars content to come in the future, and you don't want to miss out on that. So please click subscribe and share and comment and engage, because that's what makes the show fun. And buy some merch. Check out this awesome hat I have. Bilbo wants you to buy the hat. All right? You can't say no to that.
Bilbo requests you to buy the hat.
All right. And we'll see you guys next time on another Star Wars podcast. We'll see you guys
later.